All Talk with Tom Jordan and Kevin Dietz on 760 WJR.
Until noon today on All Talk with Tom Jordan and Kevin Dietz. The phone number is 800-859-0WJR. It's such an important day. I hope you're having a good one in the Des Moines area. They're covered in snow, and I think it's only going to get worse as we are approaching the Iowa caucus. It's going to be Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley. You know who else is concerned about political party dominance? Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Thank you so much. Nice to have you.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
Donald Trump Jr.
It's our pleasure.
Nikki Haley.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Riley Gaines.
How you doing, Tom?
Ramaswamy joins us now on All Talk. Good morning. Great to have you.
Good morning. Good to be on. Thanks for the warm welcome.
Well, it was a big day yesterday. New York City was the venue, Radio City Music Hall. The goal was to raise $25 million. High-profile support from the former presidents Barack Obama and Bill Clinton joining Joe Biden last night to raise lots and lots of money.
I think we want a president who could raise that kind of money on his or her own.
Who won in the political realm last night? The ones that raised $25 million or the one that went to a solemn funeral for a New York police officer who was killed?
Those are really stark optics.
A lot of people very sad and surprised at the death yesterday of Joe Lieberman. He passed away very suddenly and surprising yesterday, Kevin, at the age of 82.
I don't read the comments. It's so nasty out there.
Oh, I know. I try not to, too. Sometimes I do, and I curl up in the fetal position. Charlie LaDuff. I don't know about most people, but when somebody tells me they are an accountant, I typically believe them because, you know, who would want to lie about that? No offense, right? Yeah, the president of Mexico and I talked about the Rafah Gate.
Right.
He was talking about Sisi, the president of Egypt. I think Zelensky and Putin were nearing a deal, at least his people were. And then the Western countries, probably including NATO, but certainly the United States. First, he mischaracterized the report. He came out and said that Robert Hur's special counsel report showed that I did not willfully detain these documents nor share them. In fact, it found the opposite, that he did willfully, over a period of decades, take these documents. He stored them in very improper ways. You know, legal sports betting by major U.S. leagues has led to a slew of gambling-related scandals. Baltimore, Philadelphia, and New York as the Orioles, the Phillies, and the Mets are set to host opening day games there, and it looks like they may be postponed for a day. That happened a few years ago here at the Tigers.
Yeah.
Opening day. It was postponed a day. To Baltimore, just an update. Officials have recovered a couple of bodies at Baltimore's Key Bridge. Questions remain about that ship. Still unanswered. Investigators recovering the data recorder from that vessel. And, of course, they're going to try to develop a timeline with 6 hours of data. President Biden and congressional Democrats would like to implement a wealth tax if you make a lot of money already subject to a tax, or even if you don't, but potentially could based on the markets and unrealized gains. Should the government take more of that wealth in order to balance their budgets, to close the deficit? What do you think? 800-859-0957. Is that the way to approach this economy? 800-859-0WJR. All right, so Texas wants its border protected. The federal government won't protect the border, so Texas is enforcing the law on their own. The problem is that the Biden administration doesn't want those laws enforced by Texas, so they're suing the state to get them to stop. And Governor Abbott's like, listen, if we can't protect the border and you won't protect the border, who's going to protect the border? It became a international headline because of what's happening in Israel and the rise of anti-Semitism in this country and in the world globally in general. So when you hear about a synagogue leader being killed, murdered in Detroit, the first question you have to ask, is this a hate crime? Is it anti-Semitic? For the White House to make the announcement that the impeachment is over is disingenuous because, in fact, they also said
investigation.
Well, it's not their investigation. And they also said that the Robert Hur report completely exonerated the president. And Robert Hur said, no, not at all. It does not exonerate him one bit. And we'll get into that later with Matthew Schneider. That kind of goes to what they said yesterday about this impeachment. Is the evidence there? If they said the evidence was there to impeach Donald Trump for what he did with Volodymyr Zelensky on a phone call, then the evidence is there for Joe Biden to be impeached for sure. And then on top of that, the White House has just renewed these Iran sanctions waivers, which unlocks another $10 billion for Iran. Yeah. And Iran is funding Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis in these various conflicts against Israel.
Yeah, and that's been confirmed, by the way, by Hamas and Hezbollah, like they admit.
Got to run here, but we appreciate your time. Lynn Patton, Senior Advisor for Trump 2024. Lynn, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Hunter Biden will be a no-show to this public hearing. It was his demand, by the way, that a hearing be public, and that was something that he and his this committee had worked out this agreement that if he gave a deposition, then he, of course, could have this public hearing, which is what Hunter Biden said he wanted and demanded. Well, now Hunter Biden and his attorney, Abby Lowell, says, no, we don't want it. We don't need it. Not going to do it. But the hearing will proceed regardless because Hunter's former business partners, 3 of them, will testify before Congress today, and they will share what they know about Hunter Biden's businesses overseas and their alleged connection to the current president of the United States, Joe Biden, and Joe Biden's alleged participation in those deals while he was vice president and in charge of domestic policy regarding places like Ukraine and China and elsewhere. All right, let's bring in Andy McCarthy back to the program, former assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, contributing editor for National Review, a great publication, and, of course, Fox News contributor. Andy, welcome back. Nice to have you.
Tom, great to be here.
So James Comer, the House Oversight Chairman, obviously he's proceeding with these hearings, even if Hunter is not going to be there, because he says after a year of investigations, this committee has enough evidence to show that Hunter's overseas businesses were, at the very least, highly suspect, right? And they say connected to his father's role as a top U.S. government official. Like, that's what he was selling. There was no other product. Do you believe he has the evidence to show that connection there, at least in some form or fashion?
Oh, yeah, no, I think they've shown that in spades. And money goes one way, and the only thing that appears to be coming back is access to Joe Biden. So I think that's the most important part of it.
Right. That's what Comer was essentially saying. He said, listen, we have no credible evidence that the Bidens provided any work product whatsoever. There's no legitimate value. There's no document that the Bidens have provided all these business partners overseas.
The politics to kind of take care of itself. Right now, we don't have very good politics in this country.
No, I've noticed. We'll find out. I'm looking forward to the testimony today, and I'm glad it's public. And the Comer's going to say that Joe Biden is the Biden family's closer on these lucrative business deals. We'll find out if they have evidence towards that, and maybe there's just some political fallout here. We appreciate your perspective as always, Andy. Great to talk to you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Tom.
Tensions are really high regarding illegal immigration in Michigan, and a lot of discourse regarding, new directives to house and provide for migrants as more are coming to the state. And after a young woman was murdered allegedly by an illegal immigrant last week, there's a lot of troubles right now for the Biden administration's cabinet. Have you noticed? Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, he's going to be the topic of discussion at an impeachment hearing. The House Homeland Security Committee holding its first hearing today at 10 o'clock. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, with what's been going on with
found him?
His health.
They found him?
He's still in the hospital, you know that? That's
Every
what I
other
thought
day?
on Friday when we all found out that the White House wasn't even aware that he has been in the ICU, intensive care unit. They weren't aware, and it's been days gone by. And I thought to myself, does Joe Biden talk to his, secretary? San Diego Field Office, Intelligence Division of Customs and Border Protection, they are warning that those two terror groups, Hamas and Hezbollah, and also the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, well, they are likely entering the United States through the U.S.-Mexico border. And they're warning people in San Diego, really warning the entire nation.
Tom, Joe Biden was in town, right?
Yes, he was.
Well, where was Gretchen Whitmer? She was in Kalamazoo exactly when Joe Biden was in Saginaw.
I'm wondering
and
if
it's
there's something
because
to that. She's also the co-chair of his campaign.
I know, but
so
she
why wasn't she there?
It's just odd.
The whole thing was odd. The campaign stop.
The questions,
well,
the Q&A.
There was it was such a small group. It was like a private meeting, almost like a fundraiser. We had this buildup of this aggressive campaigning that Joe Biden's going to be doing in the Midwest.
Lemonade on the front porch.
This is a huge, battleground state. And then he didn't make any speeches. He didn't take any questions from the press. And in fact, they were ushered out. And you saw the video.
Yeah.
The White House, the campaign ushered the press out of there. Everybody to your cars. Time's up.